Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO and co-founder of Impact AI, Anna Maria Brunnhofer-Pedemonte.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for still being here, which seems to be the last panel of today. The panel where we will discuss how to really create valuable AI products. It will be about from 86% of failure to AI success, how AI products can unlock true value. And I guess that's of high importance to many of you, at least for me. As mentioned, Anna Maria, co-founder and CEO of Impact AI. For us, this is really dear to our heart. We explored the last decade working in AI, how often AI projects fail to deliver value from the lab on just looking at a model of AI to really create value in a product which should go in the hands of users. And many studies underscore that there is an issue on the application layer that needs to be solved. Looking at reports by Gartner and McKinsey, around 86% of AI projects either fall short of expectations or never even arrive at any AI product deployment. So in this panel, we will unpack the challenges and provide you with actionable insights. And I'm really happy to do so with international great experts in the field, working daily also out there on the field. They will help us navigate critical questions. So let me introduce to you first, Andreas Kopp, a Microsoft AI black belt with extensive experience in applying AI solutions at scale. Then Teresa Bercich, a serial AI founder and currently co-founder of Lucinity, with the startup perspective. Then Boris Khvostichenko, who brings a wealth of experience both as former product manager at Google and also AI founder. And lastly, Colleen McCracken, with a rich background in analytics, former AI product at Adobe, and currently Fractal product manager. So let's give everyone the chance again to maybe introduce themselves in their own words, so that all the context is set. Andreas, do you want to start?
Yes, sure. Thank you for the invitation. It feels good to be here in Vienna. My name is Andreas Kopp. The role is Global Black Belt at Microsoft. And I'm doing basically three things. I'm working with customers, with our enterprise customers day to day on AI projects, so really a practice focus. The second thing is our team is developing solution accelerators. Those are public. You can try them out and use them, so for the field and also for customers. And then finally, also part of my job, which is very interesting, is to work with our product group and also with engineering. So be a kind of the interface between the field and product development.
Yes, and Andreas and us, we work together with a larger black belt team, currently on a really exciting project called Hera. You can look it up at hera.space to see what amazing things also the Microsoft Global Black Belts do together with companies like Impact AI. Teresa, let's kick off you.
Brilliant. Great to be here. It's amazing to be at an AI conference in my hometown, so very exciting. I am Teresa Bercich. I'm co-founder and CTPO of Lucinity. I've got 9 years of experience in applied artificial intelligence, and 6 years ago when I met my co-founder, we decided to build a generative AI platform or general AI platform for financial institutions to help them in their fight against financial crime and really provide the platform to take the investigation tasks from hours to minutes. And excited to be here today.
Boris, also you bring your perspective as AI investor. I'm happy to say, because we do like public trust here, that Boris is also an investor in our company, so he also has that view. But Boris, introduce yourself also.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Boris Khvostichenko. I worked for 10 years at Google, managed their Google Calendar with its roughly 150 million daily active users. and then some search and data processing infrastructure. And then we made, with a co-founder, we had a startup which was doing augmented reality try-on of fashion items. So you take your phone and you see like the new jacket on you. Eventually we sold the startup, so now that's how I became an investor. Yeah, Google was very early in the AI game. They kind of lost it a little bit, but it was very early. And even back in 2010, 2011, we were using a lot of AI software. Like the most famous one, or most well-known, is probably classifiers. Like when the email comes, you want to decide whether it's spam or not spam. This is an AI-based classifier. Now it evolved to a huge extent with Gen AI, but it actually happened after I left.
Yeah, from Google and the Google teams, which are really, we also exchange there often, you can see how high maturity there is and best practices in AI processes. So very happy to also have this view here on the panel. Colleen, you have the Adobe view of things, which is also quite stellar, and the AI analytics. And now you see many things out there as a fractional CPO or product manager for many startups. So please introduce yourself here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. I am recently moved to Vienna from San Francisco, Silicon Valley. I've been working in machine learning since 2016. And like Anna Maria has said, I've seen things from the large company perspective. And then most recently, I've been using that expertise to advise Series A and B startups in the Vienna startup scene. So very happy to discuss with you all today.
So let's dive into the questions here. And Andreas, I would like to start with you, because we heard about this 86% failure quote, right? And you have a lot of, like, a bird eagle view on many, many projects. What do you think about that? 86% of failure? How much success do you see?
Yeah, I think the number resonates with me for the situation maybe 1.5 years ago, when generative AI was relatively new. And there were a lot of experiments, initiatives, which were purely technology inspired. Like, everybody and their dog wanted to do ChatGPT, and we had a couple of customers who reached out and said, oh, this thing is so amazing, let's just rebuild ChatGPT maybe for the enterprise. So it was really not use case driven, not demand driven, it was really technology inspired. And many of those POCs went nowhere. But I think in the meantime, dust has settled a little bit. Things have changed, things have improved. We have many customers who realize value with AI. So there are also studies that the majority of customers actually realize value. But if you look what they are doing and how much, I think things can still be improved, because there are also statistics that say on average it's just 2 use cases per organization, which are successful and deliver value. Maybe, to answer your question, I think things are improving significantly, but it could still be improved in terms of more projects really will be a success and also actually deliver value long term.
Yeah.
So there's quite some way to go, but things are improving.
I mean, I think you brought some very important points here, which is starting with the use case rather than the technology, which I don't know why, but in AI is easy to be forgotten. I think it's because it's so much fun to play around with. and so still now, where all of us should know better, it can happen from time to time, right? But also you discussed a lot about value and how success is reached. So that will be a question now to everyone here, whoever wants to answer first. How did you define success or value creation in your AI products? Is it always the return on investment? Or what investment can it be? What return can it be, right? Who wants to answer?
Yeah, so that's definitely a very top-of-mind question always. The way that we go about measuring success is not necessarily only with ROI, but actually really from the product perspective. So I think where a lot of projects fail with AI is when it's not being integrated into the product, when it is looked as as isolation, as an algorithm, as something that we measure from an accuracy perspective, but not really when we track it from the product perspective. And to us, it is so highly important that we see AI as part of our product and then measure it accordingly, measure how much users interact with it, measure what are the business case values that we're driving. In our case, it's efficiency. Do we make our end users smarter? Do we empower them? Do we make them quicker in what they need to achieve to do? And all of this is then always broken down into the respective use cases, the respective things at hand. But I think the most important thing is just keep measuring it and not only measure the AI aspects of it, which are hugely important. We want safe AI, we want aligned AI, but actually measure how you would measure any other product. Does it achieve what you wanted to achieve? Does it provide the value you wanted to provide? And that is ROI, but that can also be all of these other facets that you need to consider whenever you build any kind of product. Really.
Yeah. It's a really valid point, and often in product management, it's considered success factors. Colleen, Boris, yeah.
No, I'm happy to give some concrete examples,
right.
Because it can be challenging to bridge that gap. And where I do see a lot of startups I'm working with get stuck is they're measuring like you said, efficiency, but also or accuracy, or also the inputs. So they're measuring the number of partners they've gotten the data from. And data acquisition is absolutely important, and it is valuable. But as the company matures, as you acquire that data and you're doing something with it, you need to move into other things. And so I'll give you 3 concrete examples. If you have an LLM, if you notice, many LLMs give you the option to do a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Did you like the answer? Did you not like the answer? If you have a predictive model that's giving insight, so I work in the B2B space, so if you're giving an insight to a business on how to improve their marketing, did they use that insight? Sometimes that means if your product stops at the insight and you just email them the insight, you don't know what they did with it. Did they take action? That may be giving them a checklist of actions that they check off. That seems like window dressing compared to the brilliance that went into your model. But closing the loop and getting customer feedback like that helps answer the value question.
That's so interesting. I'm not sure how deep we want to dive here now in the feedback, but as I like to always distinguish between the direct feedback, like you said, the thumbs up, thumbs down, right? Or the checklist that you could give, and the indirect feedback that you want to gather in your AI product, which is, for example, the churn of someone, or how upset someone got about the answer that you sent, maybe, or happy. Boris, what did you...
Yeah, so when the fashion try-on item startup, we obviously had our quality metrics, precision, recall, accuracy, all this kind of stuff. Users really don't care. They really don't care. And in the end, we had the special metric which we devised for them, which we call the wow factor. So what happens is when they take out the phone and try on the shoe, they kind of get lost for a bit because they like it so much. And our job was to extend this time lost time, to extend this time that they forget about the other things they're doing. And that was essentially the actual quality metric that was important for us from product perspective.
Right.
And then engineers would care about, all the accuracy metrics.
Often then with these metrics, you are, and all of you on the panel here are somewhat in this interesting range between communicating and understanding technical metrics, and then having, let's say, the product analytics and the user analytics, and having to communicate this to stakeholders, which might be completely away from tech, right? Tess, I imagine you have compliance people who just would not want to know what the accuracy maybe means, or I don't know if they, but that's my imagination now. You obviously have your customers, right? Boris, you had fashion people. Colleen, you have designers probably at Adobe, or also your startups, they can be anything from their background. So how important or how hard, whatever you want to answer now, how hard or so how important is it for you to be able to communicate and translate these metrics efficiently? Is it for, and what is it important for?
I think for me, the starting point is the the business context always. Sometimes you really don't need those technical metrics at all because they are more relevant for the data science team. What's relevant for the business users derives from the context. To make it very concrete, when I look at an organization, for example, the digital transformation pillars are, we have the employee, we have the business process operations, we have customer interactions, and we have products and services. And when you apply AI in those segments, you naturally receive relevant metrics. So looking at employee productivity, for example, if we create a co-pilot for a radiologist, for example, you naturally get metrics like the quality of the diagnosis, for example, the time to diagnosis, these kind of things. And you can make the same exercise for all other use cases in these pillars, and these are, I think, very natural for the business users.
So would it be fair to say you work your way backwards always from the business, or you like to work your way backwards from business metrics to then arrive at the technical metrics that you are still interested in that should go?
Yeah, I think that's a fair interpretation, yes.
Interesting. Do you have?
I mean, from our perspective, we're working in a regulated environment, which means that we have a lot of obligations to build trust, to show, the accuracy of the models and everything. So the way that we work with it is that it is so important to present the product rather than only the AI. It is about showing that everything is audit logged, that we have the full audit trail of what is going on, what the AI is doing, that we have the explainability, that we can very quickly and easily evidence what sources were used, how was this data analyzed, and having this traceability within the product itself so that we can very easily show our non-technical stakeholders what is happening and how it works. And of course, we're always supplementing it with the actual technological data points, but it just helps so much to be able to explain it to them in the product setting from the business case down, as Andreas said, really showing them the business case, showing them that is all visible, and then putting down saying the accuracy is also amazing.
Yeah. I think if you also work your way backwards from I mean, it's funny to say backwards, but as tech people, it feels like backwards, right? But if you start there, let's say if this is your starting point, then the idea behind it or the hypothesis behind it is that probably way less projects should fail, because what you have through that is you already have a use case at least. Economically it can live, it will be valuable for your users, it will be usable. Then again, in what product life cycle, in which stage would you say did you see most of your or other AI projects fail? What would you say? Like, was it there at the end that no one used it and there was no business impact, or somewhere in the beginning of the chain that technically something was not possible at all?
In our case, what I saw is classical problems. One is you're trying to build a solution in search of a problem. Basically, you are trying to build something and then see if people are going to use it. Well, you ideally want to know beforehand that people will be using it, because you're making user happier and solve some user problem that you actually have. In my case, we also had the issue of uncertainty. When we worked on a clothing trial, this turned out to be a really complicated problem, and we quickly built a prototype. Well, it took us 1 week. And anyone wants to guess how long it took us to build the full functioning product after 1 week of prototyping? It was 2 years. 2 years to go from a prototype which works on some cherry-picked use cases to a full production working system, which we will be able to sell to our customers. And that was quite unexpected, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that's also what you hear very often. And I think there was even in one of the Microsoft talks, I think it was even last week, a topic saying that there were so many projects stuck still in the POC phase, and where companies need to often also, let's say, arrive at the AI maturity level in the organization, in the setup of the team, to understand how to operationalize and how to productionize AI. We see with our partners and customers often that they would create an AI delivery center or an AI center of excellence, but I mean, that's also why we're here on this panel. An AI product manager also is this one person who can understand and drive the process and say, okay, what does it really need to bring in POC into production? So maybe also, Colleen, at Adobe, you had a lot of these experiences. Now Adobe, just a few months ago, brought this product to communicate better the analytics, how successful the AI products of Adobe are on their end. What's your experiences in there?
Yeah, look, so you asked earlier about why technical metrics might matter and how to communicate them. It's putting it in terms that the business understands. And I'll put it very bluntly, hot take, trust is the product. Performance is the product. If at a big company like Adobe that has a lot of resources, they make multiple bets. So that means that 86% failure may not actually be a problem for them because they have the cash. What they're looking for is innovation. So they may assign 5 teams to work on the same problem. And then who has the best accuracy, the best prediction, the best access to data, the best quality will be the winner.
Oh.
And if you look at the startup scene too, there may be areas where there are a lot of competition. If your data is not proprietary, there may be other companies building similar models. And so there is an element of speed to market, but also these technical metrics matter, because without the customer trusting what you have and having the best one, then there is no product.
That's a very good take.
Actually, if I may, on the trust part, I think that is such an absolutely interesting concept, because what we have seen also over the last 6 years is that the trust in AI and how we interact with AI has completely changed. And what we've learned from very early prototypes 6 years ago was that just, so to speak, throwing AI at a customer, specifically at financial institutions, is not going to work, but rather you need to bring them on a journey with you. You need to build trust between your products, your AI, your end users, and your stakeholders, and you need to move it from the way we've done it is through a quasi-manual mode where the AI provides analytics and these kinds of things, to the AI providing recommendations, to now starting to become semi-autonomous with an eye to becoming autonomous. And I feel like that is also oftentimes overlooked also from a product perspective and product management perspective, that we actually have a huge psychological component that we need to keep in mind when developing these sorts of products.
This is a question I would have to you, targeted also, because I'm wondering, I mean, you are in a regulated area, right? Your customers are, definitely. And you can't just throw any AI product on them. But at the same time, what AI products do live from and thrive through is a lot of feedback, your stakeholder feedback. So do you think that within Lucinity you had to, or you still have to, deal different with gathering this feedback that you need to growing your AI? Or do you feel like there's no difference between regulated and non-regulated?
I'd say there's definitely a difference in the sense that it asks of you to be excellent. Because you are regulated, you need to have all the documentation, you need to have the proof points, the transparency, the explainability, and that drives you to be really, really excellent, because you need to evidence it to the regulators and to your customers. I also feel that the regulated environment, while often tiresome, actually sparks a lot of innovation, because you're trying to find creative ways to make use of a technology in a restricted way. And that's how, for example, we also had patents in federated learning coming from this, because we couldn't just simply share data between our customers, because that's a big no-go in the financial services industry. But back to the point whether the feedback gathering is different, I think it is not different in terms of, in essence, what you're doing, but the mechanisms that we're applying, how we're interacting with our customers, that we are going on site and shadowing them, seeing, using the system, getting also these qualitative feedbacks. Might be different than if we have, for example, a customer services chatbot where we can use the thumbs up, thumbs down as a golden standard.
And just keep in mind, there is no such thing as an unregulated customer when it comes to AI, now further on, considering the EU AI Act, so it applies to all customers. Of course, FSI is heavily regulated, others are maybe less regulated, but when it comes to AI, it applies to all customers.
That's true. That is true. You can, though, maybe find more easier ways to gather the feedback, you know? Maybe, like, I imagine at Lucinity, they might have to report upfront more about how the AI system works than maybe you would need to do now when you create something where it's B2C and the people decide if they want to chat with it or not. No? Or yes? I think the EU AI Act will change things there, but the feedback gathering is probably easier on still unregulated areas.
I think also the standardization of it is much more crucial. Like having responses that are, streamlined, that are always the same. You can rely on them being always correct and always in a similar vein. We're dealing with regulators. We're submitting narratives, for example, and we need to make sure and ensure that they're always, similar. Which is something that in a chatbot you have more, leeway with it.
A very interesting, wide range. And Boris, from your experience when you, as an AI founder, and also at Google, like, do you feel in, for example, gathering the feedback, understanding the flywheel for AI products, do you feel like at some point the product manager knowledge didn't help you anymore for the AI product? Do you feel like there were some parts missing that were critical for AI products?
I don't think so. I was actually privileged enough to work in search at Google, and there are some things which came from search into general AI product management. But essentially, at the core, you're still trying to understand what user needs and then deliver it, fulfill those needs. And AI doesn't change that. The ways of changing those needs might have changed, but the needs, they essentially remain the same. What did change, however, is in the product definition phase, where previously you pretty much knew, well, this is my feature definition. I go to engineers, they tell me it's 10 people and 1 year to do. Now those estimates are all basically have to be redrawn again because AI changed way how things are developed. It also made some things which were not feasible before feasible now. Like, for example, we spend a lot of time trying to automate how to help people add events to calendar, and now it's much easier to do, like from a scan, for example. And essentially, it now goes to the PM trying to formulate a big picture to the engineers because they have now a lot less control of how things are done, and you want to tell them and explain them the big picture, and let them figure out the rest. Like, for example, in the calendar example, I would tell them, we don't want user to miss any important event in their life. How do we do this? Well, we can extract those events from emails, for example. It's impossible without AI. But then what also changed a lot, and this was the last couple of years, is the delivery phase, because a lot of uncertainty. A lot of times in the startup, when I came to my head of R&D and engineer and CTO, and I told them, we want to do this, like, can we do this? And most cases, they would say, I don't know. They wouldn't say, yes, it will take us 3 years. They wouldn't say, no, it's not feasible. They would say, I don't know. And we let them run things for a while, a couple of weeks, see what's happening in the subject area in general, because they would start from reading what's happening in the subject area, which changes every month. And then they will try to hack something around, and then they will tell me, oh yes, this is feasible, this is not feasible, this is feasible but really hard, or somebody already solved this, we're just gonna reuse the approach, fine-tune it a little bit, and work with this. The other thing we changed, you have to now manage the averages. Previously, you would say, oh, this is my thing which developers developed. I know if I send the request A, I get response B. Very easy to test. It's completely deterministic. You know what's happening. Now, what you do is, I have those thousands of, let's say, prompts, and for some of them, I changed my model. For some of them, the response got better. For some of them, they got worse. So I look at the average. On average, I should be improving things, but then I also should always be asking myself the question, am I fine with accepting those losses? Like, do the benefits or do the wins outweigh the losses? And this is very different, like it's just a different mindset to what you had before. Because before there was, request A, response B.
I mean, what you said now, thinking of the broad sphere of what product management can mean, you brought up a lot of knowledge already about like technology, let's say, right? Or technology adoption. So I'm just wondering, like a PM who's not close to tech at all, understanding that you have to do some trade-offs when you change model or when you change data. Like, don't you think this is very specific to AI products? Would you put any PM on an AI product?
Yeah, this is somewhat specific, but also if you use external system, those systems always change. Mm-hmm. And you have to find a way of testing those changes before they get into your production. That's why, like with AI products, that's why you always do versioning and say, oh, actually, I'm on this model, and before I test the new version, I'm not gonna just blindly let my users use it. Mm. It's very dangerous, actually.
Right.
Yeah, I want to talk about costs a little bit, because a product manager who doesn't have a technical background or technical advising can underestimate the cost of the infrastructure, especially. So I think it's a little different if you have a well, actually, maybe not. If you're using an external service and it's usage-based, you really need to be able to predict how many queries you'll be making and then how much your cost will be, and set parameters. If you're building it in-house, you really also need to understand the parameters around how far your data goes back, how long do you let a query run before it times out, things that can help control costs, because you can have the best value proposition in the world. You can promise your employees or your customers that you'll make money, save time. But if your infrastructure costs have gone through the roof, well, your business case is blown.
What would you say are some early things, early then before building maybe even, or very early in the building, in the POC phase, that people who are sitting on a product, so it can be technical product owners or an engineer who owns a product or a product manager or a CEO, whoever it is, what can they do, what can they look at to get a grasp of these things? Some techniques?
Yeah, I think when it comes to understanding the market and the demand, I think it really depends on, are we embedding AI in an existing product, or if it's a completely new product or experience. To give you one example, so I work with a couple of automotive customers, and they, if you have a modern car, of course it already has a voice assistant, so you can give commands and the car responds. But what they want to do is to integrate really a universal chat experience. So you can chat with your car as you drive, and it can tell you things about the landmarks, and if you are interested about the history of a specific building, it will be able to tell you that. So it's an extension of an existing capability, and if you already have the infrastructure in place as a product manager, you know what kind of questions users already have asked and which are not answered by the existing system. So you have a lot of data which you can use to define your use case. And actually, a lot of automotive customers in Germany did exactly this. But if it's about a really completely new product or new experience, then it's really tough. Even user surveys can be misleading. I think in this case, specifically if it's something which is really groundbreaking, a really new experience, the one best practice is really to observe potential customers in their natural environment, look where are frictions, where are pain points, where are these articulated needs. So, for example, what we did when we defined the digital workplace of physicians in a hospital, we had our teams shadow the physicians for 3 days, which was a very interesting experience. I was part of that, really to learn how is the day, a work day for a physician in a hospital. And you get insights that you would have not gotten if you would have asked them, because you see those frictions, right? You see those unarticulated needs, and that provides a lot of signal as a PM also for developing the product, specifically for completely new experiences when there is no foundation that you can leverage.
That's really interesting. Let me try to kind of break it down to a few words. So you have this one case where you're building up on a known product, let's say. Some partners of ours, some customers of ours, they do like a, for example, voice remote controller. It's there since many, many years. And you would then know what people ask, and you would know the infrastructure, and you just bring it maybe on a new technology level, let's say, a new AI level, and you kind of estimate from there. We also see often that you can compare it to human agents. For example, a call center, right? You would know what is asked to the human agent, and you know how long it takes for the human agent. And you compare what would that mean now with a GenAI application. So that's the one. The second one is the blue sky, where everyone is sitting there for hours and saying, but how much will this be used? And what will be the costs? And there, you suggest what can be really truly helpful is going into the field, identifying what issue you want to solve, maybe, like finding more of a crystallized version of what will be the issues you want to solve, looking at it in real-life data, gathering this real-life data with people, and seeing then from this 3 days or multiple days, how much of that would be transferred into a GenAI application. That's a very good approach.
Especially for new experiences. So observing is better than asking.
Yeah.
Because you know this quote from Henry Ford, if I would have asked customers what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? Because they cannot imagine the new thing, and then they are not able to articulate it.
Yes. What often is a point technologists make, saying people don't know what they want, so I will build this AI thing that no one knows that they want, but then no one wants it. So.
Which also can be a mistake. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But there's always, in your actually excellent example with in hospitals, there was also on the panel, the first panel in the morning, Andreas brought the case of nurses doing reports. They spend 1.5 hours from shifts doing reports. They hate it. You always can find those things which people do not like doing. And if you start with removing them from the equation completely, there's going to be a killer app. Like if you, and you have to be bold and ambitious with it. So Andreas brought, the key example was, let's get it down from 1.5 hours to 20 minutes. No, just get rid of it completely. Fully automated. Maybe sometimes it will break, you'll fix it on those, like when it breaks in those points. But people will love you because they will not need to do things that they don't like doing.
Right.
Like a friend of mine, he has his own outsourcing company, software development, and they build a small tool which helps them to itemize receipts and do a proper accounting for them. Runs on top of some chatbot. And they spend maybe $200 on it, and that's the thing that no one likes doing after you came back from business trips. Oh, like this is yes, this no, this yes, this no. Now it's automated.
Yeah, I think there's different levels of maturity for an AI team, right? And so there are certain projects and certain areas of AI that are a bit less risky or a bit simpler. And for example, before you do machine learning, before you turn it into a machine, just try the learning part. Just look back historically. How strong are the correlations? How many outliers do you have in your data? Can you attempt to do data acquisition and cleaning beforehand? And that's where I want to give a shout out to Impact.ai, because it can help evaluate some of the foundational performance indicators before you really invest a whole lot of money especially for teams that are still learning, that are moving on their way up to the maturity curve.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that would be my advice for folks just starting out.
Thank you for the shout out.
You're very welcome.
And it's also a really nice bridge now to my final question that I would have to all of you. So we will do this weird thing where everyone says something in the end, which is, you brought it up, maturity. We see with our customers, it's important to understand the AI maturity of the teams and organizations. It's important for the success of their AI products, but it's important to understand what could they even build, kind of, right? So, Colleen, let's start with you because you already said it. How did you experience, or how would you envision a really high, mature AI team, also maybe sitting in a large organization? How do you define it for you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I worked at a company with a wealth of data scientists at my disposal. If you are a non-technical PM, please make alliances with those folks. They will help you understand, where your data is stored, how much it costs, what's possible, how good the data is, how much you can get, things like that. So I really encourage that. If you're in an organization that doesn't have access to that kind of talent, my gosh, we are in a world where information abounds. There are tools like Impact AI, but others to help you get trained up on this stuff. And like I said, start with some of the easier concepts like, do basic statistics before you get into building machine learning. So I'll just pause there. Yeah.
Awesome. Boris, for you, high mature AI teams or organizations?
Yeah, I define it as like 4 items which are important. One is your place in overall business, like what you're doing and why you're doing it and what it impacts. Then you have a repeatable AI development, product development process with the AI-specific quality metrics, which do not exist in regular software development. You know your users, you know why you're doing this, but the important one, and it's also quite unique, there is a continuous learning of people because things change so fast now. You have to learn new technique, new approach, new LLM which came out every more or less week, every 2 weeks. You have to be continuously learning.
Yeah. Keeping learning. Even I would say for some, it's even picking up AI literacy in the beginning, right? And those who are experts keep learning. Teresa.
Absolutely. I think back to the PM non-technical, technical question, I think if you have a non-technical PM, you need to, arm them with the expertise, right? You need to have someone at their side that can be an expert in AI, that they have a sparring partner, that they can develop these things together, both from a technological as well as from a product perspective. And to me, the maturity comes in when you have this nexus, where you have diversity of thought in your teams, where you can look at the problems from all possible angles, where you have the understanding and the maturity that it's not only about the algorithm, but the data acquisition, the data storage. How do I put this into a production environment? How do I make sure that this runs without errors every day for all of my customers? And once we've reached a phase and a stage where within a company we have all of these things considered, we have a process around it, and we can repeat it, then I would say we have AI maturity from a product perspective.
Super. Andreas?
Yeah, so what to add? Specifically in big organizations where you have a dedicated data science team, there is always the problem of this silo, right? So we are data scientists, we really know what we are doing, but we often the business context, the user context is completely lost there, and sometimes it's this, if we build it, they will come culture, which is not the case. I think more and more important is really business alignment, understanding the users, and this is not specific to AI. That's should be the normal case, but in big organization, it's actually not. But it's also not an AI-specific problem. Maybe to close with an AI-specific issue is innovation management. The pace of innovation with AI is different than with other digital technologies. And if there is one thing that could also be a competency for a high mature AI team, is really not to over-engineer your solution on a specific model, because it's very likely if you invest a lot of effort and energy and money in a specific model version in terms of customizing, fine-tuning, it's relatively likely that this model or this model version is not state-of-the-art 2 months or 3 months later. I think this specifically applies to fine-tuning, where customers invest a lot of data, a lot of effort, and then they have to do it all over again 2 or 3 months later because there is a new model version, and sometimes you cannot even reuse the practices that you learned. So don't over-engineer on specific models. Take a lightweight approach of adopting it. Do configure before customization. Have in mind that it's maybe already outdated in a couple of months.
Yes.
This is really an AI-specific suggestion, I would say.
It is, definitely. Thank you so much. And I think, so we only have a few minutes left. I would wrap up this panel then here, saying thank you so much for all of you joining, coming in also to Vienna, and giving, I think, a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience to everyone here at the Applied AI conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you.